manager of Missoula Community Access Television, inviting you to another edition of What's Up Missoula. Today we're going to talk about the mail-in ballot general municipal election coming up. There is also a special school building reserve opportunity to vote. And Vicki Zeier is here with me from the Missoula County. She is the Missoula County Clerk, Recorder, and Treasurer. Thanks, Vicki, for coming.
You're welcome.
So to explain to people what is going on, there has been a change. Hopefully a lot of people have seen this change in the primary election held in September and then for Hellgate Elementary 2 weeks later. But do you want to tell people what the difference in this year's election is going to be?
Yes, the November general election will be done by mail ballot, and that means that your ballot will be mailed. It'll be at the post office October 16th. You should start receiving your ballots October 17th and 18th. You have through November 6th to vote your ballot, but they're all to be mailed out 21 days before the election.
Right, and you mentioned before we started taping, when it was the city council, or was the Missoula electorate voted on the mail-in?
The city council did. They chose, I approached them about running a mail ballot for this election year, mostly because this type of an election usually has lower voter turnout, and it's becoming more and more difficult to find election judges. So I approached them about trying a mail ballot for the citywide election. We did increase our voter participation in the primary, and I truly believe in November we'll have even better turnout because every ward will have a race.
That's right.
Coming up in November.
So even it might be like a kind of election year, people say, oh, it's an off election year. It's just local. There's not a big senatorial race. There's not a presidential race. There are not candidates for our state assembly in this year's election. It's mostly you decide who's going to be on city council, and will the schools get a building reserve fund approved?
Right. City residents, those people who live within the city limits, will receive a ballot that has both their ward candidates, and each ward does have 2 candidates, and only one gets elected. And then they also will have the IRAC initiative that the city council requested to be on the ballot, and then they also will have a school district 1 building reserve question on the ballot. Outside the city limits, our electors, other than the Frenchtown area, will receive the building reserve only because they do not have a ward outside the city limits.
It's not a year to elect county commissioner, so everyone that lives in the county, their stake in this year's election has to do with Missoula County public school system.
That's correct.
I had forgotten about the Iraq initiative. That one was pretty controversial, even putting it on. The initiative is asking the citizens of Missoula to kind of sign on to a statement about an orderly and rational withdrawal from Iraq. So it's a kind of a statement of position, which is also pretty unusual. So there's stuff happening in this election. Did you have comparative percentages of the primary this year, with the mail-in ballot compared to years without it?
We were averaging 8 to 10% voter turnout when there was not a mayor on the city ballot. And this last primary, we had a 24% turnout without the mayor. So we increased our voter participation by 14%.
That really is something.
That's an improvement.
It is.
As an
so
election
you're pleased
administrator,
with that?
well, I'm pleased. I would actually like to see it higher when you work
of course.
and you want everybody to vote. So.
Yeah, and it is a privilege. Well, here is what I wanted to show people, what you're going to be looking for in the mail. So I hope people won't miss it. I don't think they will. It's large.
It's very large. It's what they call a size 12 envelope.
Size 12 envelope. I'm going to ask Garnet to zoom in, whatever he can do, so you at home can know what you're going to be looking for. And you're going to be looking for this beginning October 17th, I guess.
October 17th. They'll be at the post office on the 16th.
Yeah, so give the post people a day to get it to you. Maybe give them 2 or 3 days before you panic and decide you're not getting one and you need to call the elections office to ask them where yours is. So really, if they haven't received this by October 20th, it might be time to call because they're uncertain. Maybe they think that they're registered voters.
Right.
This is not going to every mailbox, every resident is going to registered voters?
It's going to active registered voters, which
Active
means you had to
registered.
be, you were engaged in the last November election or newly registered. And people who did vote in the last November but did not receive their primary ballot, it was an undeliverable ballot. If they did not respond to the notice we sent them, then they've been inactivated, and they do need to come in and activate their registration, update their address before they'll receive a ballot. So not every person will receive one, so they really do need to call if they don't receive it by the 20th, because there could be an issue why they didn't receive it or it got lost in the mail.
Right. Oh, I didn't ask you the number to call.
258-4751.
I'm going to put that on the screen for you guys at home and repeat it in case you can't see it clearly on the screen. This is by October 20th. If you haven't received a ballot and you feel like you should have, give the elections office a call, 258-4751. Now, once people have received it, I just wanted to walk them through a little of what they're going to see in there. Here are the instructions. Should I start with that?
Yep.
Okay. So it says items enclosed for mail ballot election. Instructions, a secrecy envelope, voter affidavit envelope, and the ballot itself. So you'll see these instructions. Do you want to talk them through it a little?
The instructions just more or less tell you what to use to mark your ballot. The best thing to mark a ballot would be with a black pen or a blue ink pen. And it
Not
really,
the number 2 pencil people were so used to.
Right. The number 2 pencil was old technology. Now the tabulating equipment we use actually looks for the oval. And that's why it's important not to use a check mark or an X. The machine more than likely will pick it up, but really, truthfully, for the machine to count your ballot the way you want it marked, you want to darken the oval completely with a black or blue pen.
Okay. Next, we're going to see, what else should we show them? Should we show them this or the secrecy envelope?
I would show them the affirmation first.
Okay. And that they're going to find on the back of the envelope. You'll see this envelope has got a little pink line here. It's addressed to Election Administrator, 200 West Broadway at the courthouse. And this, Vicki, I think is a really important part for people to pay attention to.
Right. The affirmation envelope is the envelope that is sent back to us. You'll put a 41-cent stamp or hand deliver it to the elections office before November 6th. The critical part of the envelope, though, is the signature. You must sign your envelope. That is the verification that we do at the courthouse to verify that, yes, you indeed did vote your own ballot, because we verify every signature with your voter registration card.
Right, so if people don't sign it, where this big X is, and it says signature and date, you have no way of guaranteeing that this is a genuinely cast ballot.
Right, and that is what state law requires, is that signature be verified against their voter registration card.
Mm-hmm. And the voter affidavit, because we talked about, the frequently asked questions, one of which might be, well, I don't know about this this mail-in thing is subject to fraud. And when you sign it, you say, I, the undersigned, hereby swear and affirm that I am registered to vote in Montana, or that I am entitled to vote in this election because of special provisions, that I have not voted another ballot, no early and often, that I have completed this ballot in secret, and that the address listed on this envelope is my correct address, or if it is not, my correct mailing address is. And that's the first line, to put your correct mailing address. And then the second line, I understand that attempting to vote more than once is a violation of Montana election laws. I further understand the failure to complete the information below will invalidate my ballot. And the information below is your signature, so they can check it to make sure that this is the signature they have on file with your name.
Yes.
And then the date.
And it's really important when a family receives 2 or 3 ballots, a husband and wife, that they truly watch whose ballot they're signing for.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, if my husband were to sign mine by mistake, that still is going to invalidate his ballot.
Right.
Even though maybe the ballot that was placed inside the secrecy envelope was his, you still need to watch the name on this envelope, because that name is the signature we're looking for.
That needs to match the ballot
That needs to,
signature.
yeah, the name on here, this envelope has your
Right.
address and name, and that signature has to match that name.
Oh, good. Okay, I'm glad. And this is just an example here
Right.
of what, but people should see their own name and address printed
Right.
clearly and legibly here.
Right.
Because I was going to ask, what if somebody scribbles there, my
Yeah.
signature is not very recognizable. It's going to match over here.
Well, and this barcode that's right here, actually, we scan that barcode and it brings up your voter registration card.
Gotcha.
That's part of our advantages of technology today, that the barcode, I scan that barcode, that's Vicki Zeier's envelope. I should see Vicki Zeier's signature on that envelope.
Right. And the secrecy part is that there is no identifying, doesn't say your name on the ballot itself
No.
that you fill out with blue or black ink in
Right.
the oval. And then once the decisions are made and you've cast your ballot, then it goes in the blue envelope. I hope it fits.
It does.
Yeah, like so. And then that secrecy envelope goes in the envelope you're going to use to mail in your ballot, like so. So this part, yes, it has your name on it here and it has your signature, which has to match the records they have at the election office. Once you guys figure out that this is valid, you separate the secret ballot from the no fraud part of the operation, and then it's tabulated just as it might if you voted in person anonymously that way.
Right.
Got it. Any questions? 258-4751 for the election office. We were going to talk a little about the first time it was done was the primary in September, and then 2 weeks later for the Hellgate Elementary bond issue? Is that
Yes,
right?
it was a bond issue.
That one was. And that you did learn some things, because in the press and what have you was the fact that 10,000 or so addresses came back as undeliverable.
That's correct. Missoula County and the city of Missoula, we have a very mobile community. We have a lot of people who move frequently, and if you don't remember to update your registration, sometimes your registration address is 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah.
So it's really important to let us know when you change your address. And what happened with those 10,000 that were undeliverable ballots is those people were sent a forwardable notice telling them that we received their ballot back, and that if they didn't update their registration, they would become inactive. And we're through that process, and we inactivated close to 11,000 people from the first part of August, since we mailed the primary ballots, to the end of September. We are in the process. We are receiving several of those undeliverable notification notices back now, and those people will indeed receive a ballot as long as we receive that notification in time to mail them a ballot.
Right. How many ballots were sent out initially in September?
42,000.
Wow.
And this time we'll be sending about 53,000, but it's countywide.
Oh, that's right.
And we reduced our numbers by 11,000. Back in August, I was looking at probably 61 to 62,000, and we're down to around 53,000.
Wow. So you and the post office must be really good friends by now with databases and trying to confirm things.
Actually, the post office, one of the reasons we have the bright pink on the top, this is for the post office to help them. So on election day, after we receive the mail that we get at 11 o'clock in the morning, anybody who does go back to the post office during the day and drops it in one of their boxes, we can go back before 8 o'clock because of this identifying mark and get everybody's ballot. And this was to help the post office locate our envelopes.
Gotcha. Oh, and there's something in here. I know we wanted to touch on this point. And I just want to explain to people as I understood it, just in case. What happened was, in the first time the mail-in ballot was used, a number of them came back, and partly too because there are a lot of students at the university and they move quite often, and a number of people had probably moved. When they came back to the elections office, these are undeliverable. The election office sent out another notice with "please forward" written on it, and this "please forward" notice said, "We tried to send this to you, but we couldn't. Please get in touch with us if you're interested in voting." Is that pretty
That's
good?
correct.
Okay.
They received
So
a
that's what
formal
happened.
notice that was forwardable.
Yeah.
And yes, they we tried to reach them.
Right. And it's also important, particularly in a municipal city election with wards like this, it's very important where you live.
Right.
To the very block in some instances, because it determines who you get to vote for.
That's
so
correct.
you couldn't just say, forward this mail-in ballot, because they might live outside the ward.
Right, and then they're actually voting for the incorrect candidate.
Yeah. So this is something you'd mentioned to me you want to make sure people are clear on. It says mail your ballot or deliver in person. So when you mail it, it requires what is now a regular first-class postage stamp, which is
Correct.
41 cents.
Right.
It's big, but you don't have to put 2 on there.
No.
Mail your ballot or deliver in person to Missoula County Elections Office, 200 West Broadway, Missoula, Montana 59802. Additional ballot drop-off locations on election day only. So prior to election day, the only place you can deliver in person is at the courthouse.
That's correct.
To the office on the 2nd floor. However, on election day, Tuesday, November 6th, you can bring these only between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. to Rattlesnake School, Paxson School, Russell, Hellgate Elementary, and Cold Springs.
That's correct, and we will also have what we call the AutoMark, the ADA equipment for people who need assistance with marking their ballots at those 5 drop-off sites, plus at the courthouse.
Oh, I see. Okay. Now, does this take the place, forgive me, this is an ignorant question, is this taking the place of in-person voting on that day?
You won't be able to go in and receive a ballot there. All you'll be able to do is drop off your ballot. They will not have supplies for extra ballots. If you need to register late and come in and get a new ballot, you've lost one, the dog ate it, whatever it may be, you do still need to come to the elections office to do that. The 5 locations are just going to be drop sites, and it just is kind of convenient for each area, and people dropping off kids or whatever, if they don't want to drop it in the post office or come all the way to town, they have another opportunity.
Only on that day, so don't try to do it before.
Right, and we are going to try to do a drop-off site at the mall on the Saturday before, which I believe is November 3rd, from like 10 to 3 in the afternoon.
Okay.
And that is not listed on there because we still need to work with the Southgate Mall and stuff.
And
but
see if
we're
it's
hoping
possible.
that we can do a drop site at the mall on that Saturday.
Okay. What else? Have we covered everything? Anything else you'd want people to know?
You still are able to register. The last day to register and receive a ballot in the mail is this coming Tuesday, October 9th.
Oh, that's good to know.
After October 9th, you can do what's called late registration. We ask that you don't wait till the last day, but try to get in as early as you can and register, and then you'll receive a ballot at the time you register. Okay, and you will need to bring your proper identification, picture ID, or other forms of ID like a utility bill with your name and your current address.
Right. On November 6th, is the election office in the courthouse opened longer hours, or what happens that day?
We're open from 7 until 8 p.m. So yes,
Just as the drop-off sites?
Yes, extended hours.
Will this mail-in ballot be for this year only and not for subsequent bigger years where there are, I don't know, more driving people to the polls?
Right now, federal elections, which means any of our county or state elections, because they're all with the federal candidate, will not be are not allowed to be mail ballot because the state law does not permit them to be run by mail ballot. Right now, there is a study bill being reviewed by the House Joint Resolution 46 is what it's called, and they're currently reviewing mail ballot procedures and seeing, what the public has thought about that, and if it really does increase voter participation. Does it reduce costs? Does it reduce the staffing needs for the election administrators? So right now that is being studied, but next year there is no way we'll be doing mail ballots for the federal elections, which
Right.
it's a presidential election. It will be done at the polls.
Gotcha. Well, this is a very interesting experiment, and the first flush of it, doing the primary, has shown a 14% increase. And you feel like you'll see in this off year, when there are city council candidates and a school funding issue, you'll probably see a higher level of voter participation. Is it cheaper?
I believe it will come in somewhat cheaper. We're working really hard to keep our postage costs down.
Yeah.
You know, we're not hiring judges, but we are having to pay for the postage. Absentee voting's increasing significantly. A lot of people do prefer to vote by mail. We have permanent absentee now, so we're seeing more and more postage by the elections office. If we were running this at the polls, we would be hiring over 400 judges to work from 7 until 8, actually 6:15 in the morning until about 8:30 at night.
Who need training as well before that day.
Right. So it is costly, but so is doing a mail ballot. I won't have the final figures. I don't have the primary final figures, and I probably by the end of November we'll know if it was a cost savings. I think it's going to be cost savings, but significant, no.
Gotcha. Well, Vicki, thank you so much for coming by to explain this. And once again, if you're watching, you need a little more information about what we've explained to you, you can call the elections office, 258-4751. Again, the dates you want to look for, you want to see if you've gotten your ballot in the mail by October 20th. If you have not, and you believe you should have, please call the election office, 258-4751, to get that sorted out. But you know, probably you should wait till then too, because they're going to be very busy to make sure you haven't received it. Well, thanks again for watching this edition of What's Up Missoula. We hope you all participate in the upcoming citywide elections. If you know of a group you'd like to see on this show, give us a call. At MCAT, our number is 542-6228. For MCAT, I'm Joel Baird. Thanks for watching. Hello, I'm Joel Baird, the General Manager of Missoula Community Access Television, inviting you to another edition of What's Up Missoula. Today we're going to visit with Dr. Jim Clark, Superintendent, Missoula County Public Schools. Thank you so much, Dr. Clark, for coming.
Thank you, Joel. Glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here, because I know you're on a special mission to describe to the viewers and the voters a ballot issue that they are going to see and in their mail-in ballots and in this year's election season. It's the high school building reserve. And of course, everyone asks, why do we need a special fund, particularly for the high schools?
Well, it's really a good question. And one of the problems we have with funding for schools in Montana is just it's not adequate to do all the things we need to do. So our general fund revenues just can't support some of the things that a building reserve can support. And a building reserve is an additional tax that people vote for themselves if they're willing to do that.
Yeah. And you were mentioning this is to preserve, to maintain the current high schools. It is not an amount of money that would all be needed to create a new high school or a different building. This is to maintain 4 high schools: Sentinel, Big Sky, Hellgate, and Sealy Swan High School.
That's correct. This is not a bond issue that would build a school.
Right.
This is a building reserve that can go help us with our maintenance issues, with safety issues, and with some equipment issues that we just can't fund out of the general fund.
Right. And the buildings are not getting any younger.
They're not. We're aging.
Right.
As the buildings are, our equipment is aging, even our planning is aging. And so some of the things that we're looking at will be updates, and some will be new additions.
And the amount of money is, what the reserve is hoping to collect is about $1 million a year for the next 10 years.
That's correct. If the voters approve this, we will be receiving about $1 million a year for the next 10 years that'll go to support those issues in our schools.
Will the money be spent as the 10 years go along? Will it aggregate in 10 years to 10 million, and then this upkeep, this maintenance work will take place?
It'll be spent on an ongoing basis. Okay. So as soon as this is approved, if it's approved by the voters, and as soon as we do receive revenues from it, we'll begin those expenditures. And expenditures, the projects that we're looking at supporting through this can be viewed on our website, as well as through some advertising that'll be out in the public.
Oh, that's great. And I'm going to put right here for you the website, so you can weigh the issue, at your leisure at home via the internet. You mentioned a bottom line. People are going to say, well, you know, of course I want to support the high schools. I mean, there's an infrastructure, an asset we don't want crumbling. That doesn't seem like a very cost-effective way of dealing with what people are already paying for. What is the bottom line for the taxpayer? How much is the school district asking them to contribute?
Well, right now, if you look at your tax bill, if you have a valued home of $200,000, if your home is valued at $200,000, right now we would need to collect about $24.40 a year, a little over $2 a month, to support $1 million a year for us.
Yeah.
However, with the increasing valuation of our county, with the properties in our county, that same $200,000 home tax bill is actually going to only go up about $3.40 a year if the voters do approve this. So it really is, it's a small amount we think to pay to help support our schools with that $1 million a year.
Yeah, and I agree. Is there anything else you'd like to add to people? That you mentioned to me there might be some information through advertising and they would find more about this issue in the Missoulian or the Missoula Independent.
That's correct. We will be purchasing some advertising. We'll also be, I believe, publishing an op-ed in the Missoulian that will allow people to see what this funding can be used for in our schools. Some of the safety issues, for instance, that we're looking at are to go to update our cameras, the video cameras that we use. And these are used to help assure safer schools for us, for our high school campuses. Also looking at our card access system, looking at our fire alarms. Looking at various equipment that we've not been able to update and replace on a regular basis. So people can find those specific things in the advertising. They also are welcome to call a school, call a principal, a high school here and say, could I come through the school? Show me what the needs are. And we'd be delighted to have people do that.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Clark, for coming by.
You're welcome. Thank you, Joel. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much for watching this edition of What's Up Missoula. Once again, we've been talking with Missoula County Public School Superintendent Jim Clark about a ballot issue you're going to see in your mail-in ballots this election season at the end of the month. If you want to learn more about it, I'll put the website address right here on the screen for you. If you want to arrange to talk to a high school principal about the issue and see what the needs are, give a call to the central switchboard, which is 728-2400. Well, if you know of a group you'd like to see on our program, give us a call at MCAT. The number is 542-6228. For MCAT, I'm Joel Baird. Thanks for watching.